Welcome to Din's Talk, the space where soul wisdom meets bold action. I'm Mia Dins, your host, here to ignite your fire, help you claim your power, and guide you to take unstoppable steps towards your dream. Every episode is designed to awaken your purpose, fuel your passion, and spark transformation in your life. It's time to step into your truth and never stop. Let's dive in. Hello, beautiful guys and people and beautiful souls and everyone who's out there listening to this episode. I'm so excited because it's my first episode recording here in Bali. Yes, guys, I know there's another episode coming before where I share my story, how it all came together. But today I have beautiful Denise here with me. She is like her journey is nothing short of extraordinary. We had a chat before and it's amazing. She faced profound trauma from an early age on. Then she lost 5 family members during COVID. Then she left behind her old life in the US. She will talk about that more and began a new life in Bali, and all sparked up by an unlikely guide, her beloved chicken Hazel. I love the story. She will tell you more about it. But through it all, Denise has covered that self-love is the greatest power of all and all the power we have. And it's now her life's mission to teach, speak, and coach others on self-love mastery, which is her personal mission here that she's following and embodying. And with decades of experience in yoga, meditation, energy healing, emotional freedom techniques, sound healing, and transformational leadership, also affiliated with Tony Robbins. Yes, we all love Tony Robbins. She has dedicated her life to uplifting others to own their stories, live authentically, and step into their dreams. So at the core, that I believe Denise, I know there's so much. She has done so much, and I just wanted to honor all her beautiful energy, her dedication and devotion to this lifetime. And let's talk. Let's this be a beautiful transmission. And welcome. I'm so honored that you're here. And guys, we had a bit of trouble with the connection because we're both in Bali, and Bali has a funny thing with connections. So that's technology. But now we're here, and yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation. Welcome, and the stage is
Thank you.
yours. You can introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Michelle. Mia, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And yeah, we're going to dive into some really cool stuff today.
Yeah. Oh, you're so humble. You're so humble because you're doing so much. Well, you know what? I think we need to talk about Hazel. That's the first thing because it's such a beautiful story, and it kind of just shows that when you kind of have it all, and then you describe. I remember the moment when you were sitting. Is it Los Angeles where you were living, or California?
I lived in LA for 24 years.
And yeah, tell us when you had this moment when you were sitting in your beautiful apartment, house, whatever, and then you had this moment, oh my gosh, I have it all, but I actually have nothing at all, kind of a thing.
Yeah, it was a profound moment because this was the year of 2022, and I was living in my dream home in the Santa Monica Mountains in a place called Topanga, which is right below Malibu. And it's just, I mean, you're just surrounded by nature and hippie type people, spiritual people. And the community's beautiful. The land is beautiful. The land is really rich with energy. And I was sitting in my office and I was looking at my wall of achievements, and I was just like, is this it? Is this all I'm going to do? Is create more achievements, more rewards, more certifications. And I had been studying with Tony Robbins for about a year at that stage, or actually a little bit less than a year. And he had mentioned in one of his seminars the art of fulfillment and the science of achievement. And I recognized that I had the science of achievement down, but I didn't have the art of fulfillment down. And it wasn't that my life was unfulfilling. It just wasn't as meaningful as it could be. And it led me to Bali. I had a calling to come here many years ago. I ended up not coming due to some chronic health issues. And then COVID hit and yada, yada. Then fast forward a few years, and then I'm getting this huge, huge signal that I'm supposed to be in Bali. And it was so loud that I allowed myself to receive the message, full knowing that if I was going to step into this, my entire life was about to change. I didn't know how. I just knew that it was about to change because there were things that I knew that I needed to seal up, clean up, just in aspects of my business and aspects of moving into the next version of myself. And then when I finally received the signal to come to Bali, it was a Friday and I left Saturday. Like no time to think about it at all. I just jumped. And then I was super sobbing on the plane over, and it was just such an emotional event because it was like, oh my God, I have nowhere to go back to. Now I have only forward. So when I landed here, like for one, it felt like home because part of my heritage is Filipino. My mother was Filipino and she passed away from COVID in 2020. So there was just this connection to the island girl in me. And I was like, oh my God, when I got to Bali, I was like, these are my people. Wow. I'd never felt that before, right? And then as my time was unfolding and I was really just like, okay, I'm going to stay as deep into my routines as I can. And I'm going to be here in the unknown, and I have no idea where the next moment is going to take me, but I'm going to be here for it. And so I spent several weeks like this. And you can just imagine the profound impact it made, the people I met, the magical experiences I was having, the growth and healing that was occurring within my heart. And I had been receiving signals from the moment I got here that I was supposed to be living here. And it was wild because I was like, okay, it's time to start thinking about this. Like, am I complete in California? Am I complete in the United States? Is this something that would feel really good to and nourish my soul? Will this bring me fulfillment and peace? And the more that I leaned in, the more that I looked in the mirror, the more that I healed, the more that I just stayed in the uncertainty of it all, the answer kept pointing to yes. And I started receiving more and more signals. And then eventually, this is what Mia is referring to, is I finally asked Mama Bali for the clearest signal of all. And I said, I need you to show me if I'm supposed to be living in Bali, if this is going to be part of my new life. And that day was so strange. It was nothing that I planned. And I ended up at the beach at 10 o'clock at night on a new moon on a Sunday night. Why? I don't know, because I go to bed at 9. I don't know why I was at this particular nightclub. I don't know why I was doing the things I was doing, and showed up at the ocean. And then I found a bird drowning in the ocean. And when I found that bird, something shifted because it was a sacrifice and a ceremony that had survived. I didn't know this at the time. I learned this later. But I brought this bird to a platform. I did some Reiki on it. I was just checking because I thought maybe it had some broken wings. I had no idea what it was used for other than finding a bird in the ocean. And I brought it home with me so it could die in peace and I could bury it proper. And it turned out that she came back to life the next day. And then I find out it was a chicken. And I was like, now I have a chicken. And I don't know what to do with this. And it was really wild because I've had dogs for 18 years and now I have a chicken and I'm like, well, I guess I'll just treat it like a dog. And so I'm doing research and I'm calling vets, and come to find out this chicken was my omen. And she just took me on as her mama right away. She was climbing up on my legs. She was climbing up on my shoulder. She would not leave my side. She claimed me. And it actually extended my trip by 3 weeks because I was due to leave Bali to fly back to LA. And then I was going to fly to France, to Paris, to speak at a women's conference. And none of that happened. Well, it did happen. It just happened in a different order. I went straight from Bali to Paris, all the while bonding with this chicken and recognizing it's time to create a new life. And I gave my 30 days notice to my landlord while I was still in Bali. And so by the time I looped back to Los Angeles, I only had 3 weeks to seal up 24 years of my life and sell everything. And I somehow did it. It's wild.
Wow,
I
this
know,
is
right?
amazing.
such a wild story. And then, you know, the biggest question has been since, right? This is 3 years ago, is, well, what happened to the chicken? Well, after I came back, I had somebody caring for her. And then I finally found a villa, and Hazel is somewhere in the garden right now playing, living her best Bali life. And she's like the most spoiled chicken of all. And now she's 3 years old,
I
and
can imagine.
it's wild. Yeah, it's super wild. And I I think she doesn't know anything different at this stage. She knows a good life. I cook for her. She has her little spa bath. She has her place where she lays her eggs. She sleeps in my bedroom. I mean, it is weird.
Wow. And she cuddles with you too.
She cuddles with me and she purrs like a little cat. And she makes her little chirpy noises. She is super affectionate, and sometimes I just lay with her in the hammock. Every now and then I diaper her, and I'll wrap her up in a little sarong or something, and she'll like watch a show with me in my bed. I mean, it's so weird.
Not at all. Not at all. You're talking to an absolute animal lover here. I don't find anything weird like that. I love
Love
it.
it.
I love it. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. I mean, I love, honestly, because chickens are not, the typical pet that are, that are close. And I remember I grew up on a farm, and I didn't, not like your story, but I connected with the chicken, and that chicken was a little bit like disabled, I think. And that's why I was able to catch it and carry it. And, and that was so special because usually you would have cats and dogs and doing this, but the chicken is different. When you bond with them, it's beautiful. I love this story. And I know there's so much more depth to the whole thing, and also like the before you actually had your profound moment in LA, sitting there in your beautiful home, having it all. Because I know there's lots of trauma that you experienced, and you lost your, five family members in COVID, which is, and including your beautiful mother. So
Yeah.
thank you also for sharing this connection with the heritage of Filipino, the island girl. Yes, absolutely. Not that I have the DNA, like not the, like past lives for sure, because I've always felt like I'm an island girl. I love the sarongs. I just gel in. I just love the coconuts. I personally believe I'm better at cracking a coconut than the locals sometimes. Like, I mean, I can't do it with a knife yet, but just when I find a coconut, I will find a way to crack it. Trust me. I'm so determined. And I've always done that in New Zealand, on the islands there, and just here as well. So it's beautiful. I love the energy. And we just had a quick chat before we jumped on. Like, for anybody who hasn't been in Bali, the energy is just out of it. It's just very different, like very powerful. It just draws you in. It's just like it's a calling. And I've heard from people say like you either love Bali or you hate it. Some people just don't like it, which I cannot imagine. I know you can't imagine, but it's probably one of those things. Yeah, I like you. I had this calling, this deep calling to come here through a dream, and I have always felt called to go to Bali. And 2020, actually, I was meant to go here and do a retreat, right? And then it didn't happen because of COVID. So, and now, 5 years later, I'm actually here, and I understand that a lot had to happen before, so I'm able to actually receive what I'm meant to receive right now, all the upgrades and all the transformation. Because, yeah, it has been a wild ride. It has been a wild ride since I'm here. I feel like I'm here like just a month, and it feels like I have been here like 6 months or something. I don't know. It feels like forever.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel like time moves differently in Bali. It's almost
mm,
like one day can feel like a week with all that you can
mm,
experience here. Every day is an adventure here, and it's really, and there's also an interesting aspect of it where I've seen people, I don't necessarily do this, but like people can really drop deep, deep, deep into their comfort zone here too. And, just get really cozy with the island life. And, I mean, obviously I'm huge into personal development, so I'm consistently growing. And I would say my comfort zone is very small. I'm always out of my comfort zone in general. But what's so cool about it is like the energy of the island. It's like it's like life moves slow here, but the energy moves really fast, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, I can totally see that and the
Yeah.
duality of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that I like that point what you just pointed out. I can totally see that with like getting super comfortable. That's very easy. And I can observe people like, because also the, lifestyle is simple. You don't need much money to actually have a really good life here. And that can make you easily get into comfort zone. Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful as well that I know that the moment I'm getting comfortable, I'm not growing. And nothing wrong with enjoying the beautiful. I like the beautiful slowness because I'm very fast inside. So that's like a nice balance. But it can, of course, if you're not aware of that, it is dangerous because it can suck you in. And then you kind of
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's good. And that's all I
Yeah.
need. So I had a conversation yesterday with some people who are an expat actually who's here since 18 years. Not that I know much about him, but you can feel that they're just comfortable with what they do right now. There's no growth, and that's cool. Some people, it's totally cool.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, no, that wouldn't be me. It would not,
Yeah.
satisfy me. I wouldn't be in my fullest and highest potential. And also, what I wanted to point out, what you had, like, when you were, like you said, you had like a pretty high life and you were doing a lot, but it wasn't your highest potential, right? And when we are just 1 degree off, and over years, it is quite a bit, right? It
Yeah.
is can then accumulate, and so it's amazing. And now you chose like a different path, but using all the tools you had before and just using that to amplify. Because I love the message of self-love, and would like to go deeper into that because that's your self-love mastery, and I think that is the hardest part to do because we have to love ourselves first before we actually really can give it to other people and allow it in from other people, right? Because only as much as we love ourselves, that's as much as we can receive from other people. And it is a journey and it will always continue, right? It's especially as women, right? We have the thing about our body, our looks, are we enough? And so how was that journey for you, and what led you onto this journey?
Yeah, well, I mean, it really started with healing myself. It was I was born with borderline personality disorder. And so I spent a majority of my childhood, my teenage years, my 20s, just really struggling with identity. I didn't have one. Struggling with really dysfunctional emotions, a dysfunctional and chaotic household, not having like a lot of certainty, having, I mean, when your basic needs aren't met and you're constantly living in fear and anxiety, and this was my childhood. It was really hard. And um through all of that, I did like excel really well in school because that was kind of like the only thing I had, and it was the only way that I felt like I could really gain the connection from my parents, because they were so self-involved in their dysfunctional relationship that and not to knock my parents, they didn't know any better, and I think that generation just honestly didn't have the tools back then, and so in my early when I started on my path, because I'm now 25 years in my spiritual path, it was to start facing myself, because I recognized that I'm hurting other people with my own behaviors and patterns, and that it was time for me to take some self responsibility and accountability for my own behaviors, and to understand them. And that's when I started therapy in my early 20s, and then was finally diagnosed at 26, 28. I left my corporate job to save my life, and I put myself into an outpatient treatment program in Los Angeles, where I was in therapy for 10 hours a week. And I virtually created my new identity, and I was in that program for 9 months, saving my life. So it was, having that shift and then making this realization that after all of that, this path wasn't about me. It was actually about the people that I was meant to serve. And that's when I became a yoga teacher. And then I opened a yoga studio. And then I had that studio for 6 years with the intention that I wanted it to be a space for healing for people, which it was. It wasn't like your average yoga studio where people are going in for their workout. Yeah, they got a workout, but it was a workout of the soul in my classes and my studio. And And I've had so many people come to me over the years and tell me, like, thank you so much for that studio, because I was going through this at the time, and your studio helped me heal. And I didn't recognize these things at the time. I just thought, I was not really like where I am now on a spiritual level. But back then I was like, I knew I had a responsibility to other people, and it was beyond me. And it wasn't until I started getting signals that I was meant for more. And I was not meant to be in this tiny studio in downtown Los Angeles. I was meant to be a global figure. And that really scared me because I was like, oh my God, like, how am I supposed to serve people around the globe at this stage? Like, that's a tall drink of water. That's a big responsibility. And I didn't want the responsibility. And then I eventually embraced it. So, it's, I didn't go into the coaching world until 2018. And now I'm 7.5 years in. And it's just been honestly the most beautiful and fulfilling experience to be teaching what I'm teaching, and to become who I've become, and to just lead with love, to lead with love, lead myself with love, lead others with love, create other leaders of love. And so we're here to do good on the planet and help other people. Right. And so that's where my mission lies at this stage.
I love this. I can feel, you can feel when someone has done the work. There are
Yeah.
people out there talking about things, but you can really feel when someone really faced their shadows, really went into
Yeah.
a deep transformative journey like you did in your early 20s, mid-20s as well. And then, of course, it continues. And there are episodes in life where you go deeper, and then it's less deeper, and it's just like a flow. It's just whatever your soul rhythm is. And I love that, and I can feel the love. And I even get goosebumps. I can feel the love and the compassion from you through you talking, through when we message. Like I got flustered before a little bit because I was like, okay, mom, yeah, like, and it's only my first day back really to do some work, because I took a couple of weeks off, first time in 2 years, and after the retreat, I needed some time to integrate. I didn't want to rush back into things. And that was very new for my nervous system too, to actually allow myself to do that, to have the compassion, be like, hey, be okay with that. I mean, I'm still doing things, I was writing, and, that's just because I love that. Just stepping back from being out there and not even being on social media since over 2 weeks, and not posting anything, because I just need to alchemize, to transform and transmute, and then I can speak from that point. Yeah, and not be like, hey, I had this experience, because I haven't even processed everything yet. It hasn't been
Yeah.
through everything, through all the layers. And I need to learn that and relearn that, because before, or sometimes we can rush into things and we feel like, when we come from this wounded place, we have to share. People need to see me in order so I can be seen, or my message can be heard. But on an energetic level, that's not matching my authentic self, because I'm showing up from a wounded place, from a scarcity thinking, from a neediness, but knowing that when I truly do the work, and then my message will be felt very differently. And it's about that, because it's not about me being seen. It's actually about that I can transmute and bring this, be the messenger of what I have alchemized, and for other people to feel that and be activated. And that's like, it's a very different approach. It just feels right when you talk about it, it feels just very different. It just feels so authentic.
It is different. Well, because the thing is that it's the integration, right? It starts to become a part of your identity, and which is what, for those who are listening, that's what she's talking about, right? She's talking about the process of growth and integration, right? And there's a method to the madness. And, some people, we kind of like learn to live our lives by design or default, and default is just kind of defaulting back into old patterns, old behaviors, old wounding, old habits, right? And when you're learning to live a vision driven life, when you're learning to live by design, you're going through these growth processes which get you out of your comfort zone, and then you have to learn how to integrate it and embody it, because that's the only way you're going to shift your identity. I've just often heard just people, and I've been there too, like, oh, why am I not there yet? Or, like, that person has what I want, go through feelings of jealousy and envy and self-pity and all the things. And then why am I not there yet? And my question is, well, if you had it in front of you right now, if you were actually living it, would you be ready for it? Because oftentimes, if you have to sit and think about it, the answer is no. And why is that? Because there are steps along the way, just like Mia was talking about in her journey here, right? Like that it's not just you're not just gonna snap your fingers and end up there, right? In order for us to fully to receive what we're here to receive, there are steps along the way that need to happen for you to get to where you need to be. Stepping stones, right?
Absolutely, and and I love that because it's like the schooling, and you can't step and skip the classes. You have to just go through them and do the test. And I actually love what you say. And what you know, people think, oh, what's so difficult about not showing up, or like going on social media whatsoever. But because I have been conditioned, and it's a business. I have an online business, so it's actually uncomfortable to let this go and to trust that this what I'm doing right now, the integration, is leading me to what I need to then convey, the message and everything. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with being lazy, because in the background I'm doing deep shadow work, facing
Yes.
myself, and also allowing everything to integrate from the retreat. I feel like sometimes, because people, when they hear like retreat, it's not, I mean, it was nice because you're taken care of, you get beautiful food served, we do like beautiful, I mean, I love journaling. I love doing gibberish and yoga and all these things, right? It's and then ongoing into the shadow self and stuff like that. But you get also hugely triggered, and there's lots happening on a cellular level. So it's not like
Yeah.
you're just sitting there in lotus position all day, and everything is, roses and butterflies.
No.
You really have to face yourself. Yeah.
Retreats are transformational. Well, if depending on the kind of retreat you choose to go on, right? Like
Mm.
because I like next year I'm hosting a retreat here in Bali,
Yes.
and it's called Meet Yourself in Bali, right? So and it's a
Mhm.
self-love, self-care and self-healing retreat. It's not going to be your average retreat. It's going to, yes, you're going to have yoga and meditation. Yes, you're going to have Balinese and cultural experiences. Yes, you're going to have spa and sauna and like yummy self-care things, but there are also going to be workshops, and there's also going to be healing work. And because I have recognized that there's so many people who come to Bali, and this is anywhere in the world really, who go on retreats, and they have these gorgeous transformational experiences, and then they're like, okay, I'm going to make these changes, and then they go home and they go right back to their old patterns. The difference with my retreat is that we're not doing that. We're actually going to be going through an integration process after the retreat for 6 weeks, because I don't
Mm.
want to come to Bali and say, hey, I went to Bali once for a vacation. You want to change your life? I will help you change it in 8 weeks, right? And that's the thing, is that most people don't understand the integration aspect of this work, right? It's like we can't just keep bouncing from experience to experience, expecting our lives to change. That's not going to change us. That's just geography. That's just, changing the environment or the situation. That's not going to allow you to sit with it and to let it settle into your nervous system, so you're actually healing, growing, and transforming yourself with purpose, right?
Amen. Amen to that. I get goosebumps all over because this is it was so interesting because right, I've never been to a retreat before, but I of course I've listened to things before, and I knew, and from my own experience, and just with everything I have done, the work with myself and for myself and other people, I knew that the integration phase afterwards is more important than the actual retreat. I knew the retreat was going to be fun and things would happen. I don't know what, but but the integration after, it's like, when you do a fast, I did like juice fast, like for 6 weeks. The integration phase afterwards is so much more important, right? You can't just do 6 weeks juices and then you go back and I don't know, have a full-on meal. It's impossible. You're not able to digest it. You really screw up your whole digestive system and actually outdo all the work you have done, right? And
Yes.
it's like what you just said, so beautiful. Exactly, that's what people did. And I'm not going to blame or shame anyone here, but it was interesting because we got our devices back on the last day, right? We had our brunch, and it was before, always the table was full of life. We would be talking and everybody would engage. And the moment everybody got their devices back, most of them, you could see the typical la 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 la. Everybody was like full on getting back. Honestly, I had my phone, and I felt like an alien. I felt like, what is this?
I didn't even know how to type anymore. And I was like, I actually don't really want to have you right now. And I
Yeah.
literally, all I used my phone for was to find accommodation because I told myself I'm not booking anything because I don't know who I will be and what my needs
Right.
will be after the retreat. Yes.
Amazing.
So all I did is I booked what I needed to do, like where I needed to be. And I felt like I need a cave. I need to be somewhere for 5 days where I'm just in my own space. I can write, but I knew I'm not going to touch my phone much, except for maybe letting someone know I'm alive. And
Yeah.
that's all I did. And I literally couldn't use my phone. I couldn't even listen to frequencies for a couple of days because
Yeah.
my senses were so desensitized. And it was beautiful. I literally took my time. I think after 3 days, I started to slowly message people. And I'm still not. I mean, I use my phone maybe an hour or so, and that's it. Because it's
Yeah.
just like, I want to experience that and I want to see everything that comes through. I want to really, that was my intention for the retreat. I want to go deeper than ever before and I want to really see what wants to emerge through me. And I can
Yeah.
only do that if I do something different. Not if I do the
Yeah.
same thing. And it was hard. It was like, not the phone thing wasn't hard, but it was hard to be with it, to sit with it, and to actually see all the gunk, all the shit, all the, darkness that wants to, all the limiting beliefs. But that's exactly the work because you open up the Pandora box and then you need to allow it to
Yep.
come out. But if you open up the Pandora box and you put a lid on again, because you go back to your old habit,
Yeah.
it's kind of like bubbling beneath. And then it will annoy you in some sort of whatever way. But if you don't allow the space for it to come through, then it's kind of like, and not saying
Yeah.
the healing is not happening, but it will be probably coming through in different ways and not so nice, annoying for sure.
Well, you're making a good point, right? And it's the space in between, right? It's slow down to speed up, slow down to speed up. It's like, I like to describe this to my students as think about the ocean, right? When a wave, because our emotions are like the ocean, right? You have this wave of emotion coming up, right? Everything on the bottom comes up. You can't see the bottom anymore. It's just sand and sediment and whatever else in that water. And it's almost like I used to be a surfer. So I remember experiencing this, when I was getting tumbled in the water. It's like I didn't know what direction was up, down. I was literally getting washing machined. And I had to wait for that energy to settle before I could get to surface. And so I use this analogy because it makes sense. When we let the energy settle down, when that water starts to resettle, suddenly it starts to become clear again. That same thing is happening within us, right? So when we're constantly doing and going and going on adventures and jumping from place to place, and we're just in the energy of it all, but we're not giving ourselves the time and the space to let ourselves be and let it settle in, we're not going to have the full experience we're meant to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're just going to keep doing more of the same. And this is where a lot of people end up getting tripped up, because this is what, when people are like, oh my God, I just feel like my life is on a hamster wheel. That's why. Because when you just keep adding more and more, okay, you know what, let me buy that thing because that thing's going to make me happier, or let me do that thing and that thing's going to make me happy. But they're not actually spending their time and their energy with purpose, with intention. Most people will spend more time planning a vacation than they will their life. That's sad, and it's true.
Wow.
It's true though, right? And oftentimes it's just because, like, a couple of factors. People are scared of change. I get it. Your ego's scared of change. But guess what? If you sit here wanting, X, Y, and Z, but you're not taking the inspired action steps or the massive action steps to create that change in your life, then you know what? I guarantee you somewhere, somehow, some way, the universe, God, spirit, source will do it for you in some way. For me, it was a surfing accident in 2013 that you can probably see the scar. It smashed me in the face, 29 stitches to the face. And that was my spiritual awakening. I wasn't on my path at that time. I thought I was, but I wasn't. I was checking out. And I look back on that, and what was I doing? I was exhausted from running the yoga studio. I was burning myself out. I was working 7 days a week. for 5 years. I had almost very little self-care. I wasn't practicing what I teach now, and I got a really hard lesson and it ripped me open. But I was getting the signals. I remember hearing certain voices like, you're not doing the right thing right now, because I was checking out. I was surfing all the time to check out, and I was smoking a lot of weed. And it was like as if that's my path. And I was going to sell my yoga studio so I could go escape, because that's what I wanted. I wanted to escape this. I was on the wheel, right? And then the surfing accident made me slow down. That wasn't fun. Right?
No, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it shows up. It can show up in an accident. It can show up in chronic illness. It can show up in, losing your job or going through a divorce. It can show up in ways that you don't want it to show up. But that's the thing, is that that's why we talk about leading with consciousness, right? And not checking out, and then looking back. And how many times have people said, oh, you know what? I saw the red flags in that relationship. I just didn't leave until it blew up.
I can so relate.
Right.
Of course, I can so relate. And the body, I experienced that a lot. And because I take a lot of time and write and reflect the last, 1.5 weeks, and I can see how often my body's, Aka gave a mate, the body says no, before you even realize it already talks to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was a no, but I was pushing through because the old mindset of, yeah, don't be such a pussy. Yeah, it's just you, it's just your ego. And sometimes it's really hard to discern that. It is, even when you are experienced, it sometimes still gets very fine line. And I'm like, oh, and sometimes we have to make mistakes so we can reflect back and be like, oh, okay, that's a new signal. I should listen to that. That's part of that, right? So I get that. And I'm in the midst of it, because before, when I was in Spain, I felt that my body was constantly like shutting down, being inflamed, having my period for over 2 months, prolonged, massive, like almost like everything, my whole body swelling, water retention, like the whole thing. And I'm just like, yeah, we'll go away. But it's actually slowing me down, actually telling me, stop, slow down. You're not you're not doing what you're meant to do. You're actually, self-sabotaging. And so I'm still on it. It's coming and going. And that's when I know, okay, then I sit down. What are you trying to tell me? Because the moment when your body shuts down means you're not on your highest potential. You're not doing what your soul came here to do.
No, yes. And that's the thing, because I've experienced myself. I'm not on some soapbox being like, let me preach this to you. I'm like, no, I've full on been there and put myself through some really horrible things, self-sabotage, embarrassing experiences, made tons of mistakes. And along the way, all was such a blessing, because it brought me to who I am today. One of the things that I talk about is filling voids, right? How are we filling voids in our life? And, this is the default stuff, right? I'm filling voids in just jumping from relationship to relationship, for example, right? Or I'm a workaholic. I'm putting so much focus on my kids or my husband or my wife or whatever, that I'm not putting any focus on myself. Right? You're last. And this is the stuff. This is where it gets really confronting for people. And this is where it becomes difficult, because it's like, oh my God, I have to face myself for the first time, or I have to face myself again. And one of the greatest lessons that I learned, which is how I became the self-love alchemist, was because when I was in my early 30s in a relationship for 2 years with somebody who was 18 years older than me, who had 2 kids. And it was a tough experience. I recognized at one point at the end of our relationship, because I really wanted us to merge as a family. And he was more or less, I would say, not emotionally developed, but neither was I fully at that time. And I recognized.
Thank you for tuning into Denise Talk. I hope today's conversation sparked something within you.
I don't want him to
Remember,
be the father of my children.
You have the power to align with your soul, take bold action, and live a life fueled by passion.
And
don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and leave a comment if this episode resonated with you.
It wasn't easy,
and as always, do it, never stop.
What I learned
until next time, keep claiming your fire and your power.
Love addiction, which I didn't even know I was a love addict until I was working with my therapist. And then she's the one who, I wouldn't say fully diagnosed me, but had me start doing some research, and I did. I was like, oh my God, this is the cycle. I am with the same guy, different body, every single time. And then, I had to start healing some of the deeper patterns that I noticed I was having with my femininity, for example, and being in my masculine and putting barriers up and being scared of vulnerability and all these things. And it's taken me this long to recognize all of that was never going to be found outside of myself. And when I really started to learn to nurture her, have compassion for her, give her empathy, give her a voice, this is when I started stepping into this next level identity in self-love mastery. And this is literally how I got to teaching this today. Self-love, self-care, and self-healing. It all goes together. And it's all about connecting to your higher self. It's about learning the rituals and the parts of yourself, creating the foundation of who you are, really understanding that self-healing work. It's your resource to understand your nervous system, to understand how your patterns work, to understand where your neural pathways are continuing to drive your life, right? You're stuck in a loop. You're stuck in a cycle. And so these are all the things that shifted me into this space of self-love mastery. And what I eventually discovered when I was finally ready for partnership. Over the years, I was always saying, oh, I'm ready for partnership. I'm ready for my king. I'm ready. And then guess what? He didn't come for years. He didn't show up. And I was like so frustrated, and I was lonely, and I would have self-pity, and I would be angry, and I'd be like, but why isn't he here yet? I'm ready for him. And then I would get a new lesson. And strangely enough, it wasn't until I decided to break a really big cycle and release the identity from what I had been holding on to with borderline. I hadn't recognized that in my subconscious, I was still holding on to a part of myself that was still connected to being unsafe as a partner. And until I did that healing work, that's when everything changed. And then I met somebody, and it still took a couple of years for me to get to the place where I could really be in union with somebody, because then I had to work with polarity. I had to work with my femininity. I had to work with surrender. I had to work with feminine communication. And this has been one of the most profound experiences, because now I'm actually seeing somebody, but to go through all of that over a period of 12 years was wild. But what it's taught me, and what one of the greatest gifts that I teach other people about now, is that so many people what they want is outside of themselves. They forget to surrender. They forget to stop. They forget to be. They forget to look around and be like, oh my God, I'm living in abundance. Oh my God, I have so much love surrounding me. Because what we focus on is, I don't have this, I don't have that. I'm gonna stay in my suffering. I'm gonna stay in my complaining, and I'm gonna keep looking at all the things I don't have. And then when you ask that person, well, what is it that you actually want? Oh, I don't know. I've never really thought about it. So this is one of the greatest things, right? And this goes with relationship too. This goes with any aspect of your life, because when I'm working with people, I look at it in quadrants. I look at it as in, like, I do assessments, life assessments. I want to know where you are. Like, how do you feel about your finances? How do you feel about your career? How do you feel about your health? How do you feel about your relationships? How do you feel about your friendships? Right? Like, there are so many moving parts. And at the end of the day, you can only meet other people as deeply as you have met yourself, which means that you can only love other people as deeply as you have learned to love yourself. Yet here we are in this world where we want. I just want somebody to love me. But you aren't loving you. You're criticizing you. You're punishing you. You're judging you. Right? You're never going to get validated outside of yourself. You have to learn that within. And this is the hard stuff. This is the hard stuff that's confronting, which you know, right?
Oh my gosh. Amen. 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 And what can I say? It's speaking my heart. And I know you have to go in a minute. And this conversation will continue because that's now the part, this is now the juicy part where we actually need to go into because the celibacy, I love it. I mean, 12 years, wow, wow, wow. Your soul needed that. I'm like, I would say, I mean, like fully a year celibate and by choice. But it's actually kind of 2 years, like there was one occasion, but it already, started. I have done it before in between relationships. And I always find this is the most transformative time. And I always say to people, you are the one person you spend the rest of your life with, 100% guaranteed. So why would you not want to get to know yourself first? And
Right.
I have done it so many times, wanted to have validation from the outside and achievement. When I have this, when I have this body, when I'm doing boxing here, when my career is kicking off, when this, da da la la. But it's not true. It's illusion. Yes, of course, we still can achieve things, but the most important part is the inside work. And that's exactly what you said. And that's what I'm doing, especially after the retreat, because you have to face a lot of things within yourself. And that's the hard part, but that's the most profound part. And that's the growth part. And that is what will accelerate the journey. That is the expansion. It
Yes.
may feel right now you're going backwards, like pulling, the arrow. It feels like that a little bit, but then boom, you shoot, and whatever your soul speed is, it really depends on
Yes.
that. I know. There's so many things we can, and I would love to continue that conversation another
Yeah.
episode because I know you need to go. And we had a bit of like a hiccup with the technology,
Yeah. We'll say this
but
is
I know,
part one, everybody.
yeah, part one and part
This is
two is
part one.
coming, and I would love for the audience for you to share all your profound insights and little things that we can do, and also the part with the quadrants of life. It's important when you mentioned it. I'm like I was doing it myself. I'm like body, career, what's going on, like being conscious about it,
Yeah.
and it's and to reassess it, every single time because then you reach a certain level and then okay, now next level, right? So wow, I mean, thank you so much for showing up, for doing what you're doing, and being your beautiful, radiant self. So that's all I can
Thank you
say for
so
now.
much. Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's such a gift to be able to share this wisdom with the world. I like I said, this was never about me. It was about the lessons that I learned so I could pass them on to others. And I'm grateful. Some people have really looked at my journey and they're like, I'm so sorry you went through that. And I'm like, I'm not, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through that. It makes me more grateful every day to be on this planet. I just turned 46, so I'm embracing that I was a person who wasn't going to make it to 30, and here I am at 46, literally living on a tropical island, living my best life and super fulfilled and just so grateful for it all.
And looking like a 30-year old or something like that. Take
Maybe
it,
that's
say
just
thank you.
thank you, my dear. So much. And so Mia will be sharing, I've got if you guys want to just see a little bit more about self-love, self-care, and self-healing, you can follow me on Instagram at Denise Michelle XOXO. I'm always posting stuff. I'm just constantly adding value into the world. Feel free to connect with me there. That would be really awesome.
I will add that all in the description box once the episode is out, which will take a couple of weeks because I have some others booked before. But it will all be there. We will have a second one for sure. Thank you so much
Wait.
for your energy, your time, and I know you need to go, so I let you go. And thank you so much, and all the love to you.
Thank you for tuning in to Din's Talk. I hope today's conversation sparked something within you. Remember, you have the power to align with your soul, take bold action, and live a life fueled by passion. Don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and leave a comment if this episode resonated with you. And as always, do it, never stop. Until next time, keep claiming your fire and your power.